Okay, this is information concerning an OIG analysis of trafficking victims reported by task forces during the calendar year 2005 through 2006. And there are a number of task force grantees listed, I would say about 10. One of them is the City of Los Angeles, California, and here there is recorded in BJA's records 49. So these are reported number of potential victims identified, 49, verified by the OIG 0. Another list, same 10 I believe. This is 2005 through 2007. This is reported number of potential victims identified, recorded in the BJA's records. LA, City of LA, 62, and verified by the OIG, 13. So again, an incredible discrepancy in figures. This is regarding the City of LA. As of June 30, 2007, the BJA data indicated that the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, had identified 62 potential trafficking victims, but we could verify that only 13 victims had been identified. An LAPD official provided the following explanation for the overstatement of 49 victims. The official told us that the LAPD did not maintain supporting documentation for the victims identified and reported in the progress reports. The official said that the victims reported were identified by other task force members and that those task force members did not provide supporting documents. They include down here a number of recommendations. This concerns the effectiveness of OJP's grant programs for human trafficking victims. It states, we found that OJP's grant programs have not been effective at identifying and serving significant numbers of alien trafficking victims. The agreements and grants awarded to the service providers and task forces have not resulted in the provision of services to a significant number of victims. Again, this is a list of a number of the task forces, and this is an OIG analysis of the continued presence applications reported by the task forces. The City of Los Angeles Task Force Progress Reports was 20. These are 20 applications for continued presence. BJA report 20, verified by the OIG, 0, overstated by 20. There's a note here about task forces. It says that for 5 task forces, Chicago, Milwaukee, Dallas, LA, and Washington, D.C., overstatements occurred because the task forces did not maintain supporting documentation to verify the reported data. And this note concerns the OIG's analysis of awareness presentations made to the public. And these are task forces, and this is awareness presentations made to the public reported as of June 30th, 2007. Task Force Progress Reports, and this is for LA, 15. BJA Report, 15. Verified by the OIG, 6. Overstated, 9. This is the conclusion of the OIG audit report from 2008. We found that OJP's grant programs have built significant capacities to serve victims, but have not been effective at identifying and serving significant numbers of alien trafficking victims. Initially, the OVC service providers served far fewer victims than anticipated. OJP recognized that few victims were being served and implemented an initiative to award grants to establish task forces to identify and refer victims to service providers. With CAST, that task force is the LAPD and federal agencies which would relate to and be aware of the judgment in the Headley v. RTC case. while the task forces have increased the number of potential victims identified, the task forces' work in identifying victims have not resulted in a sustained increase in the number of victims aided by the service providers. The OVC and BJA also need to improve monitoring of the OVC service providers and the BJA task forces to ensure that performance data reported by the service providers and task forces is accurate. Service providers and task forces are meeting the performance goals, and service providers can show the amount of grant funds that are used to directly assist victims of human trafficking. CAST has an incentive to get people to debrief to CAST so that they can then have a file which they can report to the OVC and, of course, which would go to the OIG. And I would imagine that if they end up getting 33.333 thousand per head that they provide comprehensive services to, and let's say that they get 100 people who have been through the Sea Org experience, who they can include as human trafficking victims, and they could provide each one of those people, let's say, a couple of thousand, so that they would be then making 31.333 thousand per head, which times 100 victims of the Sea Organization would work out rather well. And I could understand where someone would want to set up a franchise like this and would want to get involved in some place in the United States which perhaps hadn't creamed the human trafficking crop yet. In any case, that's it for me on this part of answering the question about what's the deal with Nancy Maney and CAST and Scientology and me. I urge everyone who listens to this to study this report and to apply this information to what is known about CAST, about the LAPD, and about this idea of ex-Sea Org personnel who I acknowledge are victims, but I don't believe that they fit into the human trafficking category and that there are some real problems if this is pursued. It needs to be brought out into the open. If the Justice Department, which is behind this and which is responsible for funding both parts of this program, the task force and CAST, if the Justice Department comes out and says, regardless of that ruling in the Headley case, we believe that people who have gone through the Sea Org experience are victims of human trafficking, and that the people who are running the Sea Org are human traffickers. Then I believe that, well, it's absolutely necessary. Until such time as Justice Department does that, there are real problems, and people could, I think, end up in legal difficulty if they continue to approach CAST or any of these service providers and seek the comprehensive services which are being offered under this program to victims of human trafficking. Thanks.